Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. This week, Rachel makes a final visit to her novice gardeners to see the result of the communal beds that they've built from scratch.
Oh my goodness, it looks beautiful. I still can't believe this is the first year.
Carol is in East Yorkshire to find how the relatives of her favourite wildflower can light up any garden.
It's wonderful mixed with other plants, and the very best time to see it is in the evening as the sun goes down.
Slugs have been a major problem for all gardeners this year, and in response to a deluge of letters, I'll be sharing your tips on how to cope with them. You always think you'll remember what the garden looked like, but you don't. It is really important to record it as much as possible. Come a grey March day, it'll be really hard to piece together the exact relationship of the colours and the textures of any border. And at this time of year, that's what it's all about. It's all about that interrelationship and balance and harmony of colour. And here in the jewel garden, of course, the colour is very intense, so that you have an amazing dahlia like this Arabian Night against the intensity of the orange of the cosmos bright lights. See, look at that. And I think that this trick of using a very bright colour with a very rich one works well. I think probably my favourite plant at the moment is Angelica gigas, which has got an incredible, slightly metallic, burnished burgundy colour to it. And it's statuesque. It's an emperor of plants. Absolute joy. Nothing matters more at this time of year than simple deadheading. It really is the key to keeping those colours coming. Here, for example, on the dahlia, this is Bishop of Llandaff, I've got a bud that has finished. And the fact that it's pointy tells you that that's over and done its stuff. Whereas I've got another one, which is rounded, which is yet to flower. So that is the difference that you're looking for with dahlia buds. The round one you leave on, and that will produce flowers in a day or two, but as soon as it gets a pointy end, cut it off. And then you'll get new flowers coming through from that. And this cosmos, keep deadheading it. And the thing I like about deadheading, it's a job you can do for 10 minutes at the beginning of the day, you can do it at the end of the day, gives you a chance to look around the garden, you're feeling pretty shattered, but you can do really important work just with a pair of secateurs. Something like this crocosmia, no point in deadheading that. You won't get any more flower if you cut it back. But surprisingly, a buddleia will respond. And also it's important to remove the ugliness of spent flowers because that distracts the eye. So if you cut them off like that, you'll get new flowers forming, and then you'll get more butterflies, and that lovely rich cycle will just keep going. One of the things that gardeners debate hotly is the right time to sow sweet peas. There are some that swear by sowing them in autumn, others that say there's no need, you sow them in spring. And I tended to belong to the latter group. But this year, I thought I'd give it a go and try sowing some in autumn, some in spring, and also some directly, and just see how they reacted. A very unscientific test, but interesting nevertheless. So what we have is at the far end, we have some that I sowed into a compost mix in pots last October. In the middle, some that went into exactly the same mix this March. And at this end, the same variety, they're all Monty Don sweet peas, were sown direct into the soil in May. Well, you can see at a glance that the ones at the far end are bigger. There's more plant there. The ones in the middle are covered in flowers, and these poor old direct sown ones have had a tough time of it. We haven't had a single flower off them. Now, we're keeping a tally, and the idea is to see what the result is across the whole year. And so far, the autumn sown ones have produced twice as many flowers as the spring sown ones. However, these are due for picking now, and you can see that these have got a lot on. They're catching up. It'll be interesting to see if the autumn sown ones go over first, and therefore what these lost at the beginning, they catch up at the back end. But we'll wait and see. Now, the reason that we grow sweet peas is partly the incredible scent, and the fragrance now as I'm standing here is just wafting all around me. And also they do make perfect cut flowers. And everybody can get that pleasure from the garden. You just sow some seed and you've got flowers that will fill the house all summer long. And Rachel has been establishing a cut flower garden with a group of novice gardeners. And this week she's going along to celebrate their success.
In March, I arrived at the barracks of the British Army's Bomb Disposal Squad, the 11 EOD Regiment, who were setting up a community garden to enhance the well-being of the families and military personnel on the base.
And I'm just going to show you a few techniques.
I came along to give them a helping hand to turn what was an overgrown site into a space for cut flowers and vegetables.
I think you're off to a really great start.
The wet weather helped everything to grow lush and vigorous, but there were hiccups too, with dahlias searching for the light and a few problem pests. It's now 5 months since they started, and I can't wait to see how it's looking.
Oh my goodness, it looks beautiful. I still can't believe this is the first year.
This is the magnificence of sowing annuals, such a profusion of flowers blossoming just 5 months after they were sown.
I'm used to getting, plants from the garden centre and just having them as small plants growing big, but growing them from seed and having something so beautiful within a season is just lovely.
It's a bit like magic, really. I think just, it's full of colour and sunny, and it worked.
It's brought us together, which is really nice.
It's a great way of meeting people in the community, especially because you do move around, so you don't know where you're going and the people that you're going to be living with.
The garden is a constant feature in this environment where things often change. Many of the wives who've been working on the garden are about to move on to another base.
Both Sarah and I are in the process of moving, so we're going on to other places. I'm going to miss this and miss the garden.
Us ladies were quite hardened saying goodbye to people, but I know we will all keep in touch. For me, if it hadn't been for the garden, I probably wouldn't know them, so.
Today, the Army's welfare team are organising a special lunch to celebrate the success of the garden. And to decorate the tent, the wives want to use some of their homegrown flowers. To help arrange them to best effect, I've enlisted the help of local florist Jo Wise.
Ladies, just grab foliage.
You go for about 5 stems, and then you want to prep each stem by stripping off any leaves that are going to be beneath the water level. So just run down like that. So that's going to stop them rotting under the water and increase the vase life. So this is quite a good shape and height to start off with.
Next, we add some bishopsweed, Ammi majus. Now, this grew profusely in the garden, and their lace-cap flowers bring lightness and air to any arrangement.
That's lovely. It's already starting to look really pretty.
And with the garden flowers, it's nice to try and create different heights and create space around your arrangement. You don't want it too solid.
Yes.
Then for some colour. Our ladies sowed an abundance of sweet peas, calendulas and larkspur. There weren't many dahlias in flower yet, so Jo and I brought some from our own gardens so they could see what to expect.
I love all this colour against the green junk.
It's a riot of colour.
It's really zingy, yeah. I don't think there's another flower in the garden that has this saturation of colour. It's just so bright.
You're right.
And you can mix them all up and it still looks great. Yeah, yeah.
OK, everybody, let's see what you've done. Hold them up. fantastic. They're really good, aren't
Really
they?
good, yeah.
OK, let's go and put them in the tent.
To buy something so spectacular would cost a small fortune, but with just 20 packets of seeds and bags of enthusiasm, our ladies have really done me proud.
When all the flowers were put together, they were just so beautiful, and it was just amazing to see that we've managed to grow them in our garden.
These beautiful flowers have created a bit of a stir on the camp, and everyone is really thankful for the joy this garden has brought to the community.
Going to light a candle to remind us that Jesus is the light of the world. Thank you for this garden, the hope of transformation it has brought us. May our soldiers bring hope and transformation wherever they serve. Amen.
It's gobsmacking, really, to come from it being a car park and to think that this is what it looks like now, and the vases of flowers on the tables. It's, yeah, it sort of takes your breath away, really.
When I look round this garden and remember what it was like back in March and how it's been utterly transformed with a few packets of seeds and some dahlias, nothing complicated, but masses and masses of enthusiasm from the people involved, well, I find it incredibly moving, and I think it's benefited everybody who's worked on it.
Well, that was inspirational, and it does show that a bunch of flowers picked from the garden is always lovely. Not yet. No. Oh. Now we have a problem with this area of what should be grass, but really the grass that there is pitiful. It's become a compacted, muddy slick when it's wet and sort of subconcrete area when it's dry, which is not very often this summer. And there are two reasons for this. And the first is the lack of light. You've got heavy shade from these trees, which of course is getting worse as the trees are growing. Second problem is the compaction. Grass needs light, drainage, and water to grow successfully. Well, water we've got. The drainage we can do something about. So I want to repair this, but first of all, I've got to dig that up. And it's no good just turning over the top inch or so like that. The important thing is to go really deep. The main problem here are tree roots. I mean, our soil is wet, heavy, claggy stuff, and it's been an exceptionally wet period, and yet hardly any moisture in us at all. And it does show you how the trees just suck the water from the soil like a sponge.
Oh, I'm itchy. And I don't know where to scratch.
Now, I confess I thought this would be a gentle dig over with a fork. But if you want good grass, you have to have good preparation.
And I don't know where to scratch.
Having raked out the worst of the lumps and bumps, the next step may seem counterintuitive, but it's really important. And that is to tread it over, to get rid of any dips and hollows, because the soil isn't level, the grass won't be level. Now, having done that, rake it again to get rid of any of the dips and hollows that your feet exposed. And certainly there was some down this end. You can buy grass seed specifically for shady areas. And if it's going to be used for walking on at all, make sure it's got some ryegrass in it, because ryegrass is tougher. That is thick enough. It's sparse. If you think of sowing seeds in a seed tray, you don't fill the seed tray full of seed and then expect to get nice strong seedlings. And it's exactly the same with grass seed on soil. That's a great thing about sowing grass seed at this time of year. It'll germinate and grow really fast. Final thing to do is to rake it in, and so it's covered. Once that's in and it's watered, that should start to grow. It is important with grass seed, as with turf, not to let it dry out. So if it doesn't rain, water it every day. I have to confess that this is a case of making the best of a bad situation. The grass here will never be good. It may not even grow much. But if it is going to grow, it will now. And if it doesn't grow, well, I'll have to think of something else. And while I'm doing this, here are some other things you can be getting on with this weekend. If you don't use chemicals, keeping paths clean of weeds can be a bit of a job. Every now and then, there's nothing for it but get down on your knees and hand weed. An old kitchen knife comes in useful at this point, but whatever you use needs to be sharp. And whilst there's no doubt that it is something mature, it's curiously satisfying. Strawberries are tough plants, but it does pay to give them a little bit of attention at this time of year, especially the summer fruiting ones that have finished their work. Give them a good weed, remove any extra runners, and then cut back all of the old foliage. This will let in light and air and gives the new leaves the chance to grow strongly. Now, it is getting a bit late in the day, but if you sow spring cabbages this weekend, you should get a harvest at the end of next spring. You can raise these in a seedbed outside, but I prefer to sow them under cover because then they're easier to protect from pigeons and slugs. I put them into their final growing position at the beginning of October. I'm sowing Spring Hero and some black kale. Just one note is that when you plant these out in October, don't be surprised if they don't seem to grow at all, right through winter. They'll just sit there. But as soon as the soil warms up in March or April, they will start to grow and give you a really good harvest in May and possibly even June, just when you need it, because there's not much else at that time of year. Now, the reason I raise seedlings in here is, as much as anything else, to keep them slug-free. Now, about a month ago, I asked for any slug and snail experiences you had in what is, by general agreement, a pretty bad year. Well, of course, I've had a deluge. Masses of response and lots of ideas of how to deal with them, ranging from copper barriers, salt, putting down beer traps. There we have a picture of slugs lapping at a tray of beer. And also, the totals have been amazing. We've got a letter from Marjorie Greenwood in Hampshire. Marjorie has collected 12,883 slugs, and I like the fact she's kept a total. Am I obsessed? Well, you just might be, Marjorie, I think. Now, slugs and snails do exist in huge quantities, and my recommendation is to try and control a limited area. You're never going to stop them in the garden at large. There are just too many of them. It's a battle you're going to lose. So we keep the greenhouse, the cold frame, and this standing out area reasonably under control. So if I pick that up and look, oh, look, oh, yes, there we are. Have a look at that. There is two slugs nestling in there. So they're still there, but at least I can see them and I can destroy them. So I'm going to put those down to one side. a really good ecosystem. Wildlife, hedgehogs love eating slugs, so do thrushes and blackbirds, beetles, toads. Encourage wildlife into the garden. If you can keep ducks, they're fantastic too. Yep, more in there. Of course, one of the weapons in the gardener's armoury is to grow plants that slugs and snails seem not to like. And this week, Carol is looking at a plant that slugs and snails may not like, but gardeners universally adore.
This dainty, delicate, brilliant blue little flower. What a delight. It's Campanula rotundifolia, the harebell. It's one of our commonest wildflowers and you find it in all sorts of places. And its looks actually belie the fact that it's incredibly robust. First of all, it has these very wiry sort of stems that support these little pleated buds. And as those buds begin to open, this bell emerges and eventually folds over and dangles down. And the whole idea of that is that the pollen is protected. So even in a windswept place like this, they can still manage to get pollinated. Not only is it successful in all these wild habitats, but it's a brilliant garden plant, as indeed are all campanulas. And there's such an enormous variety of them. There really is a campanula for every situation. I've come a few miles inland to Burton Agnes Hall. It's a beautiful 17th century building, and one of its most striking characteristics are these lovely brick walls which announce the entrance. And at their top is this enormous collection of Campanula rotundifolia. And it was these self-seeded harebells which were the inspiration for the creation within the walls of one of the country's best national collections of campanulas. The great thing about a national collection of any plant is it gives ordinary gardeners an opportunity to go and see what's on offer. They can see the full range of these campanulas and decide which ones suit them and their gardens. Things like this Campanula isophila that you're used to seeing usually in blue, but this white form is lovely. This is the kind of plant that once you put it into a wall, it'll find its own way, wending along every crack and crevice and coat the wall. But what drew me to this corner is this lovely little plant here. It's got double white flowers and very dainty foliage, and it's probably a form of Campanula cochlearifolia. Perhaps the biggest use of bellflowers is in beds and borders. Usually we associate them with all those lovely pastel shades, pinks, blues, lavenders. But look what's happened here. This enormous Campanula rapunculoides has seeded itself in the back of this group. Great tall spires of bright blue combined with the brilliant red of Crocosmia lucifer and these huge yellow daisies of the Inula. Who would have thought of putting them together? But don't they make a stunning combination? The very first time I saved seed, or tried to save seed from campanulas, I watched these seed pods ripen. And when I went to take one off, it was empty. And that's because the seed actually disappears from 3 little apertures right in the back of the seed pod, right at the stem end. So, I'm not being fooled again. I'm going to take this one off now and just detach the whole thing with a pair of scissors. And then you can shake it straight into a paper bag, collect it for later, sow some straight away if you want to, or save it till the spring. And it'll yield literally scores of brand new campanulas. Head gardener Jeremy Palmer has nurtured the campanulas here at Burton Agnes Hall for the last 14 years, during which time he's seen the collection grow. How long has the National Collection been here?
It was formed in 1990, and it was developed then, I'll see, with the interest in the harebell.
Yeah.
So we just kept it going. And we've got about 300 different varieties here now.
300? That's phenomenal, isn't it?
It is.
Some of these campanulas are gigantic, aren't they? But, I mean, what if you've got a tiny garden? Would you say there's a campanula for everywhere?
Oh, there is, yeah. Even the tall ones, like this Lactiflora here, will grow in a small garden. It's just nice, tall, sturdy, and you can get away with it.
I mean, a plant like that, despite this huge volume, it's actually quite small at the base, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's very misleading. And they're really easy to look after as well. There's very little maintenance to a campanula.
And very little disease.
There's hardly any disease at all. All pests, actually, that attack campanulas.
Yeah.
They're very easy going.
I feel really at home in here. It's nice to be in the midst of a plant that's bigger than you. And it's difficult to imagine the relationship between this enormous Campanula lactiflora and that little tiny harebell that we saw on the cliffs. It's wonderful mixed with other plants, and the very best time to see it, as with any blue or white flowers, is in the evening as the sun goes down.
It's now time to prune summer fruiting raspberries. The autumn fruiting ones, and I've got them round the corner there, are just beginning to kick in and produce fruit. So it's a relay. These have done their stuff, and if we remove the wood that produced the fruit, the new wood, which is this green growth here, can be tied in, ready for next year. So the first thing to do is get rid of all the brown stems that bore fruit this year. And we're left with potential stems for next year. I want to keep the strongest and make sure they're spaced out reasonably evenly, and no more than half a dozen per plant. So just work through them. I mean, I can see, for example, that stem is no good, so we know we can take that out. That can come out. Now, the really important thing is to tie them in securely because they're quite brittle. You can see that they're evenly spaced, they're nice and secure, they're not going to move in any direction. I'll tie the tops, and then when they're tied in, cut them off an inch or two above, because otherwise they can act as sails and you find the stems sometimes snap, which is really frustrating. But once that's done, there's nothing else to do with them except give them a good mulch next spring and harvest the fruit next summer. Well, that's it for tonight. Bye-bye.